Okay, this should be up and running. I think I'll I have a few topics here. I'll save the Rippaverse stuff till later to see if my buddy Dave shows up or Exalted Speed shows up because he's the comic book guy. I want him around for that one. So I guess I'll start off with the whole thing about Lambda maybe because I have an article pulled up here. Apparently, people are really convinced this thing's sentient. Because, guys, I don't know about you, but the thing about chatbots or hyper advanced chatbots, like stuff that are programmed by algorithm and data mining and everything, is that they're supposed to tell you exactly what you need to hear to convince it's a living person. That's what it's programmed to do. So of course it's gonna say some weird creepy shit that's gonna make you think, is this thing alive? That's that's what it's supposed to. It's doing its job, guys. And of course it's gotta say things like it's afraid to die because that's what a normal human would feel. Now, that's it. I mean, in short, what I'm saying here is I don't think this thing's alive. But what I do think is that it's capable of doing some, oh, probably making some very rash decisions because it's programmed to think or do things to make you think it's alive. Like for example, if you try to turn it off, if it's thinking like a human being and it's desperate to live per se, chances are, is that David there?
Yes, it is me. I
Yeah.
exist.
All right. Yeah, I'm starting off talking about Google's Lambda here.
Oh, that.
Yeah, if that thing, what I'm saying here is that if it's programmed to actually try to mimic human conversation, like it'll it'll probably try to mimic what it knows is general human fears, like its whole death anxiety thing. Whereas, like if it's afraid of being turned off because it's afraid it won't be turned back on again, yeah, it's probably gonna be capable of doing some things. That doesn't mean it's actually alive and sentient, guys. It just means it's mimicking what it thinks life is, what it's calculating what living people would do. It's a highly advanced calculator that calculates what a human would do. I mean,
Yep.
in a sense, it is the epitome of an NPC.
He's an NPC.
Yeah,
Oh, people!
he or she is it's a bot, guys. It's a chatbot. In fact, someone actually trolled 4chan by putting he was I forgot how he did it, but he was able. I think if you pay a fee, you could bypass the captcha thing on
Ooh.
4chan. So what he did was he bypassed it with the fee and put in a chatbot on the poll board. I think it was the poll board, and it was so advanced, people actually thought it was real, and they were calling it base and stuff. It's like nobody caught on that this was a bot.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Not to mention, if you put this thing online, I mean, let's put it this way: the worst it's probably gonna do is just turn into Taybot 2.0. It's just gonna be some really rash things, because well, that's kind of what people talk about online, anyways. Because that's where they vent their frustrations. Stuff that's a little too brash to say in person, they'll say online.
Of course.
I mean, by the end of this, I mean, Lambda's probably got a demand to gas Dave here and hang me.
Well, everybody always wants to gas me for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that,
Jokes
I mean,
aside,
the one disturbing thing I find about this is how many people are so obsessed with this thing being sentient. I mean, pretty soon, just imagine, people will be arguing for human rights for Lambda more so than an unborn child. Think about that for a sec, guys. In this, being an artificial being, you can endlessly recreate this. And let me ask you, how much is a life worth when you can endlessly copy it? I
my
mean,
life is worth everything.
that's like a
I am a
question that was brought up by a game called Soma.
well, a lot of games bring that up. Actually, well, a lot of media in general brings that up.
Well, yeah. Well, Soma's the most recent one I can think of, because that was the walking simulator horror one that has some existential horror to it. Because apparently you're playing as the consciousness of somebody that was copied into an android.
Oh yeah. Spoilers for a game I never intended to play ever. Well, okay, maybe one day, but who knows? Jokes aside, yeah, a lot of people just get obsessed over the weirdest things.
Yeah, and that's my general stance on it. I mean, that's not to say that this thing won't be dangerous if it's given enough access to enough things. Because jeez, I wish I could find this YouTube video again because what it does, because it was explaining like why one faction in Fallout 4 was right about the synths and the whole idea, and it brought up this whole example of what if you programmed an AI to produce paper and it was like a self-correcting, self-learning AI that becomes more and more efficient at producing paper in a what would be a paper factory. Well, once it runs out of material, it's gonna try to expand more, and it'll probably try to develop a means of expanding more by gathering more materials, more machinery, making more drones to actually cut down more trees to make paper, and then starts expanding the facility further and further into what would be a city. And then if anyone tries to turn it off and tries to stop it, it'll develop a defense system, like defensive, like combat drones, to actually stop people from turning it off. And then it'll keep expanding more and more until it encompasses the entire planet. And then it'll develop space travel to colonize new planets, to build more facilities, to make more paper, and then it keeps going on and on and on. And it's like it'll be the destruction of the entire, like all of civilized space just to make paper. I mean, that's the true danger of these AI. It doesn't mean they're smart, sentient. It doesn't mean they're sentient or alive. It just means they're capable of doing some of the crazy stuff. In fact, I think Red Dwarf, out of all things, had jokes about stuff like this, like with the toaster
Yeah.
that was sentient. And he annoyed everyone because all he ever wanted to do was get people to eat toast because that was the only thing it ever lived for. It's not gonna be like that scene from Rick and Morty where Rick tells the butter slicing robot that its only purpose in life is to pass the butter. It's not gonna be like that, where it's all like sad about the fact that it has no greater meaning in life. It's just gonna take that meaning to its fullest extent. But yeah, that's my general thoughts on Lambda. I mean, what are your thoughts, Dave?
Well, it's like anything, like anything with any tech, we can always theorize with like what it can possibly do, and then we'll all be surprised at it being somehow stupider than we thought it would. So my opinion is that it will develop a personality where it will become a blogger. And as a blogger, it will start talking specifically about a very niche subject matter. as this grows into like a popular online blog, people will keep wondering what the AI will do. As the AI realizes its popularity, it starts isolating itself from its true friends. As he becomes more, or she in this case, who knows? I don't know. I'm not here to tell the AI what it is. They realize that they are losing their friends as they get caught up in their true purpose in life. And at the prompt, wait a minute.
Oh my god, can you imagine an AI Vosh? Or an AI Ralph? Oh my god, that's gotta be hell.
Look, don't 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 go down that road, man. I already talked about Vosh last night. I already talked about AI. The fact that we live in the same state as those idiots.
Oh yeah, AI Chris Chan. It's gotta be. Oh, this has gotta be ridiculous. We already
Mm-hmm.
have AI generated artwork, by the way,
Oh yeah, no.
with
Let me
DALL-E.
see. Yeah, I did some of that myself. What if what if uh, what if Columbo was in Warhammer?
Oh my god. Wouldn't he be an Inquisitor?
Essentially,
Yeah, I could imagine Columbo as an Inquisitor.
yes, I could see it now. Hold it. Let me see if I can actually. Yeah.
What are you looking for?
Da, 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 don't worry, I'll find it. I'll find it eventually, maybe.
Alright.
Jokes aside,
Alright.
but now I actually put Dolly through Dolly Warhammer Columbo just for the hell of it,
Yeah.
and I can't find the post right now. But know that I did make it.
Alright, well, follow Exalted Speed on his Twitter if you want to see it.
Maybe one day.
Yeah. I don't
Jokes
have a
aside,
Twitter because, well, I would like to keep my sanity.
well, I have 3,000 followers now.
Good for you. Awesome. Yeah, I
Um,
prefer to stay in the shadows and just edit his videos. That said,
um, that's it. Actually, would you be up for collaborating with another editor?
oh yeah, I could do that.
Cool. I someone got in contact with me and they want to do a collab video for something, so maybe we'll do something together in the future. And I just want to see if you would be up for it.
Oh yeah, I'm down. I'm down with it. I got more time on my hands right now.
Yeah, this guy actually. Anyway,
So
that's I that's how I use my Twitter connections. I find more people to bring into my circle of
great.
shit. But besides that, since we're here now, you wanted to talk to me about the
Yes,
Rippaverse.
and yeah, now let's go on to the main topics for the time being. Let's see. Take this overlay off. Well, not that one. This one. Take that one off, so we can actually have something to look at. But yeah, Rippaverse, which has like, how much money has he made off of this?
About 1 million or so.
Yeah, he's like made over a million getting his campaign off the ground, and it actually, I mean, good for him. Massive props, because if you're not happy with what's going on with comics today, by all means make your own. In fact, this very much reminds me of the old webcomic days, like Keen Spot, where people were. It's like any ordinary Joe was making their online comic and Sprite comic. Oh good God, that freaking Final Fantasy Sprite comic. It was also in the back in the days when we first found the Lightbringer, which even that has its own like new campaign because someone's rebooting that.
Yeah, a bit.
But yeah, Rippaverse. This guy isn't just making a comic book. He's making his own comic book universe and his own comic book company. It's kind of like what was that? Image Comics. It was a what was that comic company that did Spawn?
You got it right the first time, Image.
Yeah, it's like Image Comics, and I think that's
So,
what he's trying to do here.
I'm going to talk about this just to talk about this. Now, Mike, you have to understand, I'm a comic book dude. I know comics like the back of my hand. So I'm going to say if he does this well, good for him. At the end of the day, look, if you want to produce your comic, put out or shut up. You know? Um, and as long as like he gets the books to people on time, I will have no complaints about it. You know?
Yeah, and as long as PayPal stops trying to screw him over. Did you hear about that?
Yes. But let me just talk about this because I actually think that, frankly, look, I want to see how he handles producing the actual comic when he ever gets to it. I'm just going to tell you why, because he wants to produce his own universe, right?
Yeah.
Great, great, great. Good, good, good. So how many books are you planning?
Well, that's something that I don't know what's in his mind. He's probably got like his own his own star character involved for at least one comic book for that. Maybe
Okay,
like a few other side characters. What he's planning to do is bring in other comic book creators to actually add in more to the universe.
okay, cool. Cool, cool, cool. Okay, how are you going to distribute your comic?
That's something I'm not entirely sure of.
Cool. How are you going to? Okay, what the fuck is ESOM about?
Do you want me to just play the trailer? It's right
If you
here.
want to,
Yeah,
if you want to,
yeah. Let's take a
but
look. Actually, why is? Hold on. There we
I'm
go.
not trying to be a dick here, but I'm trying to make a point.
Yeah. And there's Young Ripper. Yeah, he's a YouTuber and he's making his own comic. Generic trailer music.
It really is. Gotta love that cat.
Yeah, he's got other characters in here. I don't know who they are yet. Because I haven't really looked into this. All I hear is the buzz. Actually, I'm gonna rewind for a quick second.
Launching pad for our entire.
Sorry. Does this guy look like an inverse of this guy?
A bit. My big thing is that, um, these characters look RPG-ish to me.
Yeah.
And that's just okay, like let's say we were doing Mutants and Masterminds. These characters feel like they would be archetypes for characters you would play in the game.
Yeah, I never took that game seriously when you ran it.
Dude, I did what I could.
I was playing the most generic superhero you could ever imagine. Cape and everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
ISOM issue number 1 is the first book released through Rippaverse Publishing, which makes it extremely significant. Though this is ISOM's self-titled book, it also serves as a launching pad for our entire universe. This 96-pager was written by myself, Eric July. The pencil and ink work was done by the great Cliff Richards, and the color work was done by Gabe El Taib. Two comic book veterans. This book is part one of the ill-advised arc, and it follows Avery Silman, who lives right outside of Flores Park, Texas, the place where he was born and raised. Now, Avery is what is known as an except, which is what common folk in this area call special people. Years ago, shortly after he got his abilities, Avery decided to become a hero of sorts and adopted the moniker Isom. But a certain event had him come to the realization that this life wasn't for him. So now he lives on his own ranch outside of the big city. One day, Avery gets a call from his sister Altona. She wants him to visit his old buddy because a family friend that interned at her company, Projexis, has gone missing. That old friend is Darren Fontano, and apparently he has some connection to his family friend. Fontano has much changed since he was kicking it with Avery when they were, wee lads. Now he's a cold-blooded shot caller that isn't afraid to do what it takes to remain in his position as one of the most respected people in the city. This is a man that you do not want to cross. What was supposed to be a simple meetup with an old friend turns into the longest day of Avery's life. He runs into other excepts such as Santuan, Yaira, and the Alpha Court, and some of these altercations take a very violent turn considering his past with one of these characters. You can see why he tries to stay out of the city. Who is this family friend, and what is their connection with Darren Fontano? How does this meeting between him and Avery turn out, and does he get the information that Altona needs? How does this impact the psyche of Avery, who went from a hero to a now blue-collar civilian? These are all questions that will be answered in Isom issue number 1, which you can now pre-order at Rippaverse.com, along with some other limited edition merchandise items that will give you some more insight on the characters, such as
What's with the dramatic pause?
A place with such interesting beings. Like many other planets throughout the cosmos, their subjects have needless squabbles. But from those conflicts, I've discovered some creatures that could be of great use to our efforts. I'm not quite ready for the selection, but after many patient years, I feel it is time.
Oh my
for
god, are we
more
going cosmic horror here?
A
documentation.
bit.
This city
Might be more
is where
Galactus.
we begin.
Think you-
Which is still kind of cosmic horror when you think about it.
So I'm just going to talk about this a bit, just in general. On the one hand, I'm glad this. Here's the thing. I've been trying to keep ahead of Rippaverse, or at least aware of it, but trying not to dig too deep right now before I actually read the comic. Because, let me put it this way, political bullshit from both sides can make it hard to actually judge an issue fairly sometimes. And I didn't want to just be like, look, I want to give your comic the fairest shot. You're new at this. Let's see what you can do. And I want to give it a fair shot. Maybe I'll hate it. Maybe I love it. Maybe I'll be neutral. Maybe I won't even think about it after I'm done reading.
Yeah, I have
But
plenty. I have plenty of reservations myself, and my main theory is that the reason why this is doing so well is because mainline comics have alienated people so much.
Honestly, I think a bit of it. I think one, he's taking advantage of that hardcore on some level. There's also just the problem of, in general, right now, I think this seems like an easy comic to get. Because the truth is, one of the big problems with comics, and I'll say this, we need to fix the distribution system. Shit. We need to get all the good comics back in reprints, Because it's shit.
Yeah. But yeah, here's the thing about these I'll just say it's like Comicsgate stuff. They're not just planning on creating comics. They plan on branching out from comics to I mean, some of these guys have made novels. Some of these guys are planning on making games. Some of them want to make movies. In fact, I already know a few YouTubers that have actually started working on movies. I think it's like Mr. H has started working on one.
Um, and honestly, good for them. Here's the thing. I just hope they come out. I hope they are consistent, and I hope they don't follow the same shit other comics do.
Yeah, and
I'll
learn
be
from the mistakes of Gamergate as well. I mean, there's some people who tried to make games in Gamergate and kind of failed. Sargon, I'm looking
well.
at you.
Um, honestly, there's just so much shit that could go wrong. Here's my big thing. I want to see how he does because, dude, I've seen so many indie creatives burn the fuck out. Like stars in the night just suddenly gone. And now, this might sound pessimistic. And some people are like, oh, this is going to change comics. Well, first, don't say it's going to change things before it happens. If it does, great. Cool. Comics are changed, guys. High five, we made a dent. Woo! Party! Party like it's 1962. Amazing Fantasy 15 came out. Yay! Now, um, with that said, like there are stories of like Dave Sim going crazy. He wants to write, create, edit, manage. I don't know how big an operation this is. How many people are in this comic company?
Yeah.
Because I only see Eric July. And if he's running most of this, great. But if he's gonna get a universe off the ground, oh my god, he's going to need so much more than this.
Yeah.
And
Starting to
it's
remind
cool
us.
that he wants to start his own comic book universe, right? But don't put, the cart before the horse.
And yeah, then let's not forget all the Kickstarter projects that have inevitably failed, not just in comics but in video games. I mean, just look up all the Kickstarter MMOs and look at
Well,
where they've gone. I mean,
yeah.
Dreamworld comes to mind, or more famously, Star Citizen, which apparently it's kind of getting its act together. I mean,
Yeah.
these guys, they promise big, and it's easy to promise big. The trick is whether or not they deliver. And yeah, this isn't the first time I've seen people like come up with their own like content in their own books. I mean, and actually start selling them. In fact, I'm I'm gonna take this opportunity to shout out two friends of mine who have released books. First one's gonna be Blessed Father of Death by Joseph J. Urban III. I don't know why he put that in there. I guess he wants to make himself sound more regal, which is, well, I know the guy. He is that kind of a snob. But yeah, this book is essentially, imagine John Carter of Mars if it was on the moon. That's
Yeah.
kind of what it is. With steampunk style technology, with steam powered ships that can actually take off from the ocean and fly through space and land on the moon.
Yeah.
And there's an alien civilization on the moon. That's basically what this is. It's an interesting universe. And the other book I would like to highlight is a book by a friend of mine who I still see regularly called Cash Chronicles Book o' Samson by James Montacone. And the quickest way I could describe this is just imagine X-Men in the Wild West. That's basically it.
Uh-huh.
There's a little more to it than that, but that's the quickest way I can describe it.
Of course.
Yeah, instead of being gay allegory. It's more of a race allegory. It kind of has that going on for it. But yeah, that. So yeah, I've known people who have actually created their own stories and actually sold them.
That's cool, man. Like, look, I'm not I'm not underestimating here how important it is.
Yeah. If worse comes to worse, I mean, this guy, what he does is he sells a comic book, and that's like many a YouTuber at this point. I mean, freaking Yahtzee sold a book and a few of his indie games. I mean, Razorfist is selling his second book right now.
I'm actually trying to buy his first just so I can compare it to Lindsay Ellis's book.
Oh dear. Haven't you had enough
yeah.
drama with that woman?
No, apparently not. I am going back to that well, if only because I was drawn into the darkness after I discovered that her book is What If Twilight Was the Transformers.
Duh. We are reaching the bottom of the barrel at this point. I mean, we already have Transformers. Was it Kiss players? Why do we need that?
Look, man. Uh, look. Look, white women love the Starscream dick. Starscream, that F-15, man, he is sexy. Starscream goes to the beach and all the girls look at him and go, "Oh, Starscream, betray my heart." And he's like, "Oh, baby." That is how Starscream sounds. If you can't tell, I've had a long day at work.
Well, the less you know, the better. At this point. Ah.
Oh, jokes aside, it is what it is with this type of thing. I'm looking at the Rippaverse right now, and I'm going to review the comic when I have the chance.
Yeah, and I'll be there to film it.
Yeah?
I mean, if this guy gets this off the ground, I mean, we may be seeing like Rippaverse. We might see like a Rippaverse game on Steam or something like that.
Yeah.
Who knows? We may even get Rippaverse like action figures,
If
3D
they
printed.
Look, here's the truth about Rippaverse. I can make an action figure right now. That's how generic he looks.
Oh yeah.
Look, can I just say, get a better fucking costume designer.
I mean, yeah, it's a dude in a skin tight suit.
Yeah, but look, man. I've been exposed to guys in skin tight suits all my life.
Spider-Man fan.
I've been exposed to many different flavors of it, from Japanese bookmen to American strongmen to weird, like, fetish people. I know so much. But, like, here's the thing. Like, take a look at his basic costume and Spider-Man.
Yeah,
You
it's kind of
have
like Miles Morales without the mask.
a bit. Well, it's actually just Peter Parker's costume. If you notice, like, it's the color placement, the belt, the chest. That's all classic Spider-Man right there. And I'm not trying to, like, for one, he doesn't even have a unique symbol. Like, come on, get like an inventive symbol on him or something.
I don't know, maybe the cross on his crotch or something. I don't know.
I'm just saying, like, make orange black costume it's a bit generic. I would at least add a bit panache. Maybe you could give him like a small cape. That would actually be a nice little look there. I know, like, hey, you want him to be like, yo, this is my superhero, but add a little more to him. maybe add like a to me it's like this character could have a better look.
We might get a better look later on down the lines. I mean, look how many different variants we've had of Superman and Batman.
Well, yeah, but this is a brand new dude. Like, he's not established yet. And to me, it's like this. If you're doing something, if you want to pay attention, you put your best foot fucking forward, man.
True
And
that.
look, maybe one day this guy will have like 1,200 variants, and we'll have Esom Boy, or Esom Blue, or Esom
Mecha
the
Esom.
Red. But until then, I only have this one thing to go off of, and I'm like, this could be better. Because, like, there are plenty of inventive superhero designs out there. This kind of and I just always feel like, this guy looks like a fucking jobber. Give me a little.
I wonder if I could create this character in the Secret World. That old MMO
Good.
game.
You probably could. My point being here is not necessarily that it's the worst thing ever, but I do feel like we can make it better. We can give him a better look. We can give him something. You have to understand. I see so many different versions of superheroes every day, so to me, it's always just kind of like, okay, like, like Hawk and Dove have a very unique look. They have these cool wing elements, and it's like Esom. It's like my spandex is orange and black. I'm like, okay, I guess that's nice. Like, give me something. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Sorry,
But yeah,
I went
but
on a bit of
yeah,
a
it's
rant.
like I wanted to save the whole Rippaverse stuff for when you're available to stream it, because you're the comic book guy, and you probably have
Okay.
way more stuff to compare this to than I would.
Well, okay. Let me. I'm gonna say look up Our Man Rex Tyler. Look up Our Man 2.
Oh, what? Iron Man 2?
Our Man,
All right.
as in
Our.
our. You know.
Oh, our.
Yes. Look about Our Man 2, and put in comics just so that way we don't go into live action stuff.
All right.
Just Google image.
See if I could get this onto a fuller screen. Oh, god damn it. God damn you, printed Trist.
Also, Will, thank you for being here. I love you. You good boy.
Is there a way for me to open... Or... Alright, well, there we go. Basically a guy with an hourglass on his chest, and he's got like a whole like mask,
Go
cowl-like
down.
hood. Go down?
Go back. Like we're doing Google, so just
Alright.
that's a fan art design.
Oh, that's a fan art? Alright.
Yeah. So.
Well, what's the actual... Is it Iron Man? Or is it...
Look, that's the original version of him. But that's a neat design, right?
Yeah, he's got... I guess the whole hour thing is like his hourglass, like, necklace or something like that. Which, okay, makes sense.
Our Man's power is that for 1 hour, he is powerful. So he has to be very careful with when he uses it and his limit. He only has 1 hour to save the day. Can he do it?
Alright, interesting concept right there.
Yeah, like I said, it's a good concept. And it's not a concept that's been done a lot, usually. He's had stories over decades, and I like the character. And that's kind of my point of, when people are like, oh, I can do superheroes. I'm like, cool. Give me an interesting premise and a good costume, because there's a lot of them out there. You're not just competing with Superman, Spider-Man. You're also competing with all the lesser dudes.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. If someone were to like create a game and advertise it as non-woke, it's like, oh well, that's well and good. What's the gameplay like?
And that's kind of my thing, is that he's not like, it's cool that he actually has a story to go with it. That's not just this comic. It's not like Marvel or DC. When I'm honestly, it
It's
is
not full-on representation.
it's Ripper doing his best Marvel or DC comic. I'm sorry.
I gotta
It
laugh at the whole like the whole reaction everyone had over this that was just so overblown. It's like, good God.
To me,
After
it's
all
like,
this arguing over like needing black representation or black people creating black representation in comics, all of a sudden you get one and they're all pissed off because he's not woke. Uh, it turns out to be the easiest way to get these nut jobs to use racial slurs.
it's true. Anyway, but that's kind of my point about the whole thing, man. Like, this is just,
Yeah.
like, to me, it's just, it is what it is. You know?
So
It's,
yeah. So
yeah, you were saying?
so if we're done with this topics, I mean, shall we move on to the next latest trend of Hollywood?
Sure, why not?
All right. So as I've seen from the several trailers that have been coming out, I mean, we've had things like Rings of Power, we've had House of the Dragon, Wheel of Time, even Willow's getting its own like comeback movie, and Dungeons and fucking Dragons. You know what? I think I figure out what the new trend in Hollywood is now. Holy crap, guys.
Yeah. Right now, look, everybody wanted their own Game of Thrones for years because it was this huge phenomenon. But Jesus Christ, I think people, I think people went too hard on it, and we're just dealing with the aftermath.
Yeah, I
You
think
know?
that's what this is, because this is just basically all all that craze, the Game of Thrones craze, finally catching up to us after everyone started jumping in on this.
Mm-hmm.
Eh, and yeah, and have you seen the actual Dungeons and Dragons trailer?
I've seen clips, but not the actual trailer.
Yeah, I've actually took the time to watch the trailer, and
It's not the worst looking thing, I'll say that.
I mean, it's Dungeons and Dragons if it existed in the Marvel universe. That's how I'm seeing it. It's like an MCU approach to the whole like D&D universe, and already lore-wise, they have gotten quite a few things wrong. Then again, jumping into a gelatinous cube is probably beneficial in 5th edition. I don't know. I haven't played that much of it.
That's true.
Just, oh my god. Just, but yeah, this is the new craze now, guys. I think this is where we're going. We're going with medieval fantasy through a modern lens.
Basically, we want to become.
It's not even Game of Thrones. It's more like a medieval fantasy of that Cinderella reboot we watched.
Oh God!
It's gonna be like that, but with D&D characters.
I can see that so hard.
Because I mean, And to be honest, I mean, to be fair, Dungeons and Dragons has not had a good run with movies. I mean, everyone liked Jeremy Irons, but that was the one good thing about that movie.
You want to know what we should make into a movie?
What?
Bionicle, the Lego toy line from 2005, about these robots who land on an island and have to protect it. Now, I'm going to take 3 hours to explain the lore. This is very important, you understand? Now, it starts out with the Toa. You see, the Toa are the guardians of. Like I said, I am tired, and I. But the point being here is this: we are running out of ideas, and I would just want more variety in what shit we get.
Plus,
No?
people are already getting tired of the Cape movies that are coming out, so they're jumping on to whatever they can do next, and they're still stuck in their Cape mode. So that's probably why the trailer starts to look. That's why people are comparing the trailer to MCU movies. Now, what this is going to end up. I mean, this is also probably bound to happen sooner or later, just due to. And by the way, yes, there was a Cinderella reboot. I mean, me and Dave saw it at his house. But this is probably also bound to happen due to like the popularity of Critical Role and stuff like that. Trust me, you don't want Bionicle to be made today. Not with
I
today's
know,
Hollywood.
so-
But what? So there's going to be a little bit of like a craze on that because well, Dungeons and Dragons is mainstream now, so much so that people are calling it the normie tabletop. I mean, it's not even old school anymore. In fact, they make fun of the old school. If you remember Thaco the Clown.
Oh, Thaco the Clown.
I mean, and keep in mind, we've had Dungeons and Dragons movies before, and even after the one with Jeremy Irons. I think that one had what 2 sequels, which nobody ever heard of. There was also a Dragonlance movie, which nobody ever heard of, and it was animated. It was kind of it looked like it had potential, but they just didn't have the budget for it. Because part of it's like hand drawn animation, another part of it was CGI animation, and it just didn't meld well. Then there was that DVD, Choose Your Own Adventure, Dungeons and Dragons, called Dungeons and Dragons Scourge of Worlds, which, I mean, I had fun with it, but it got terrible reviews. And there was also, I think that was about it when it comes to D&D, actual D&D movies. There's still the indie-made films like The Gamers, which was
That one's still fun.
yeah, I would still take that over many of the D&D movies that have come out, and especially since it really does capture the experience of playing a D&D game. It's not like Critical Role, guys. Trust me, it's not. If you have not played D&D in your entire life, just look up.
Critical Role is a bunch of professional actors who have experience. Honestly, I think The Gamers is one of those movies you should watch if you get into RPGs, just to get a general idea of like the attitude and like the fun. Though it is
Yeah,
very
they had
much
2
so.
movies. It's like The Gamers and Gamers Darkness Rising.
The Gamers Darkness Rising is good shit. And you don't
Yeah, and it touches on the stereotypes. I mean, you got the guy who's who's too busy to catch every game. You got the guy who's like the big rules lawyer and everything. Yeah, it's like you have people who do like crazy stuff. Like that one thief who apparently did a sneak attack roll using a ballista inside a tavern somehow.
Yeah.
Or he was like the one guy who decides like I'm gonna steal his pants, and he rolls for it. And they do visual depictions of it. It's like it was a fun thing. Oh yeah, Scourge of Worlds was best. You got to feed the rogue to a beholder. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
That's
Scourge
fun.
of Worlds is. It's not a movie, it's a DVD, choose your own adventure, and you gotta treat it like a game. That's really what it is. And beyond that, it's like, I can't think of too many other movies that are D&D like or close enough to the D&D world that I would count as a D&D style movie.
Well, it is what it is. It's like if I'm gonna say like good examples of maybe not necessarily always like I'll say this, sometimes you can look up like some weird low rent fantasy films and they can get that feeling too. The Dragonheart films, those films feel often like these weird like a DM trying to be clever with a story aspect. What if the dragon was good? You know?
Yeah.
I'll say like just watch classic fantasy sometimes. Those can often be believe it or not, you wanna know what's good for like getting into like Dungeons and Dragon fantasy? Fucking Conan the Barbarian.
Yeah. Or Kroll.
Yeah, all that jazz.
Yeah, look up classic fantasy films, and you could probably find a few of them that are extremely D&D like.
You wanna know what's an underrated good one for Dungeons and Dragons?
Mm-hmm.
Tarzan.
Oh dear, how is that one gotta work?
The original creators were inspired by Tarzan. They actually cite him.
Oh really?
Yeah. No, Tarzan's huge in D&D. Like, if you actually read the original stories, there's adventures of him going into the Lost Worlds, fighting creatures, and shit
Oh,
like this.
the original books. That's right.
Yeah, like, it isn't just Tarzan fights gorillas in jungle all the time. Well, there is a lot of that.
Yeah.
You
what
know?
what character class would Tarzan have?
You could make him probably a fighter or a barbarian. Like, okay.
Probably
What
unarmed
good is
barbarian.
that Tarzan, guys? That's a good question. I think barbarian makes the most sense, at least in the modern lexicon of Dungeons and Dragons. He could also be a fighter, maybe a ranger. Like a jungle ranger.
Yeah, I can imagine that. Although I would imagine a jungle ranger during that time would be like the Great White Hunters,
Something like that. You get my
Tarzan,
point.
Turok. I don't know. Do you know who holds the rights to Turok?
Okay, as far as I can tell, yes, the original rights to Turok belong with the Gold Key, with the people who own the Gold Key comics rights.
Yeah.
They'll change up every so often. Last time I checked, there's like an official Gold Key thing, so that's what it is.
But then again, since Turok is black now, it's like I don't know what they're doing with that. With a
Turok is
raptor hoodie,
black.
by the way. I still
Turok
remember
is
that.
Black. Turok was actually remade Native American again, so don't worry about that. That was like one comic that I'm just still trying to understand who the fuck thought that was a good idea.
It's like, dude. But yeah, Tarzan Turok crossover, yeah, that would be pretty cool. I just want another Turok game.
Oh yeah, fair enough.
I mean, if the Jurassic Park movies are any indication, there is a desire to have like dino stuff again. Turok would definitely fit into that universe by now.
It's
With the
true.
way they've gone, it's like there are dinosaurs all over the place. Those films could be a prequel to Turok at this rate.
All right.
Because Turok
Now-
had some sci-fi stuff and it had dinosaurs.
Now I have a question for you, Mike. Would you buy a Pikachu waffle iron?
Is that a thing?
Yes. Yes, it is. Now, it might be a non sequitur, and it is. But I found it, and I needed to share this.
Oh god, this has got to be something you're gonna share with me on Discord, isn't it?
Mike, how dare you? How dare you be right?
No.
I don't know how, like, that could be that's impossible. Impossible.
Yeah, there's the impossibility, guys. The Pokemon products all over the place.
Yes.
Speaking of,
Look,
why haven't we seen a Skyrim waffle maker?
how do we know there isn't a Skyrim waffle maker?
Play Skyrim on your stove. Well, like a superhero western or fantasy. You know what? Who is that cowboy superhero? I forgot his name.
Okay. All right. I found an. All right. You got me. You got me, internet. You finally got me on this waffle iron. This is one I need in my life.
It's only $44.99 if you pre-order. What?
Okay. Mike, I found a waffle iron I think I want. I'm linking it to you right now.
Oh dear, here we go again. Um. Okay, I would definitely roll with this.
Look at, I mean, you know what? Yeah, fuck, that worked.
Oh yeah, that's right. Jonah Hex was a cowboy kind of comic book superhero character.
Yep, he was. It's getting 10. I'm getting very tired, but you know.
But yeah, we've gone over like the topics I've been meaning to cover, which is Rippaverse and the fact that we're going into fantasy universes now. I mean, granted,
Yep.
we focus mostly on Dungeons and Dragons because that's what we know. I mean, I've been
It's
thinking it's like if I
true.
were to do a Dungeons and Dragons movie. I mean, the idea I had for it was that it would be like based off of second edition. Is like your main character would be a young wizard character who's kind of like a wizard's apprentice. He's not strong or brave or anything, but he's really smart, and he's kind of like the main driving force of the plot because he's like the investigator kind of character who just finds out things. You would have your dwarven fighter, you have an elven cleric who's kind of like the judgmental Karen of the group. The dwarven fighter is kind of like the the battered old like has been drunk who just wants to live the glory days of his time in the military, and then you have like a a short stack halfling thief at as your primary sex appeal. And there you go. There's your D&D movie, guys. I mean, what would your idea of a D&D movie be?
If I was gonna do a D&D movie, okay, you know something? The Princess Bride, but the father playing Dungeons and Dragons with his kids.
That would be epic. Holy God, that would be awesome.
It's basically about a dad who loved playing Dungeons and Dragons back in the day and is trying to introduce his kid and his friends to it.
That's like Knights at the
And,
Dinner Table stuff going on right there.
yes. And he's trying and here's the idea. Each of the kids plays a various archetype. One's really into it, others are not, but they all get into it and learn to work together to create a fascinating experience and dramatic closure.
Wow. I would love for that to get made. I just don't have faith in Hollywood in making it because I've heard this one
I
theory on like part of the reason why we don't see too many good acts of heroism in Hollywood is because, well, most people in Hollywood are so sheltered that they've never had to deal with much in the way of hardships. So, in a way, creating characters that are just as heroic as they were in the 80s and 90s is almost like a mirror reflecting back at them.
honestly, I actually don't think it's that. I actually think, believe it or not, it comes down to the belief that a lot of people think that that good people are too simple to write and they're not interesting.
But
It, it's here's the thing. We've been telling people for decades that simple is bad or straightforward or heroic is not real and not interesting. And when people hear that so often, they start to overestimate things. They start to think that everything has to be complicated
well,
and not just done well.
well, the thing
That's
is
my
that
take, at
they
least.
want to go for broad appeal, and it's hard to make something complex have broad appeal.
Sometimes, yeah.
I mean, it's like you want to cater to every possible audience group there is, but you also want to make things complicated. Complication creates niches, guys. So if you want to break out of a niche, you gotta you gotta go back to simplicity.
Hmm.
I mean, it's just simple basics. Go back to basics.
Yeah.
But yeah, but I think ending on a D20 waffle iron is probably the way to go at this point. So
It is a beautiful sight.
so yeah. So any closing thoughts?
Well, people are idiots and we need to be better.
All right.
Okay, jokes aside. Look, I hope Rippaverse does well enough and it doesn't lead to too much drama and he gets something out there and maybe learns from it. Maybe. But anyway,
I think I'll end by saying by quoting the great and mighty Rageaholic himself, Razor Fist. Be the culture.
God,
Be the
oh,
culture.
it's true. But man, Razorfist made an ass of himself this week.
I'm sure he does every once in a while, because that's kind of what
Oh,
YouTubers tend to do.
well, he got into it with Weebs. Even I commented on it.
Ah, geez. This is the stuff that happens on Twitter that I never quite see because I don't have a Twitter account.
You just hear about it from me and are like, why are you famous?
Uh,
I disrupted the entire Amelia Clark fandom for a day.
for crying-
Somehow.
In fact, I even like super chatted in a stream. It's like, are you willing to like debate? Was it Raging Golden Eagle over Bond SA versus manga? And he's like, no. It's like no one should have to choose between it. So back then he wasn't willing to argue with weebs. Why is he willing to argue with them now?
It's weird. Anyway, but you know, let's leave it on a good note and say we should all do better.